What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another video from the 10-7 MMA show. And this video is a very important video. This is a follow-up to one of our most watched videos to date, which was me hypothesizing about perhaps what may have happened between Anthony Smith and Michael Bisping. Now, the reason why I made this video is because I noticed that Anthony Smith was no longer appearing alongside Michael Bisping and instead had seemingly been replaced by Paul Felder. And then Michael Bisping went on to make a statement to say, hey, people are asking me, where's Anthony? Where's Anthony? And he says, well, to be honest, this is what happened. I just never heard from him after his last fight. And then I saw that he's doing his own thing. So I say, best of luck, but there's no bad blood, at least not from my side, etc. That caused me to speculate. I think some other folks made some videos after the fact about that as well. And again, I was speculating. I made that clear multiple times in the video that maybe something happened. I gave my theory. I thought perhaps there had been some friction that had brewed over the course of their relationship working together on the show. And I threw out a theory that maybe it had to do with the difference in philosophies in terms of how the two approach the sport. And that was my theory. That was my hypothesis. Anthony Smith now, after the fact, is coming out and actually addressing all the talk, all the hypotheses head on. And I want to say first and foremost, I 100% believe what he's saying. It actually makes a lot of sense. And so I'm not going to be going and saying, nah, I don't think he's giving the full story. I think there actually was some friction, but he just doesn't want to address it. And I'm going to tell you why as we go through this video and this explanation. I'm going to tell you exactly why I 100% believe him, because what he's describing and the way he kind of approached the situation and the inner dialogue that he was having, I have those same inner dialogues all the time. I a lot of times make incorrect assumptions. I've done this so many times in life and my business, etc., where I sort of build this narrative in my mind that somebody doesn't want to work with me anymore. Somebody is upset with what I've done or something like that. And it's just totally, it's simply because I haven't heard anything. And so many times it's just completely not true. But I have this voice in my head. So I think this is kind of the basic, this is at the heart of, I believe, what happened here. But let me start by, I'm going to play you 3 different clips from Anthony's YouTube channel, the On Paper with Anthony Smith. So check it out. This is where you can find the entire explanation. I'm again going to give you snippets of it just to make it nice and concise. But here's the first thing that Anthony brings up, which I know some other folks that actually know Anthony Smith, and so this is, I believe, a very true thing about him, and he acknowledges it openly here, which is his issues with communicating. Okay, and so he talks about this first as one of the original things that perhaps may have caused, again, and this is just different people work differently, so I can see that sometimes you're going to have some professional friction, you could say, as you're trying to meld multiple working styles, communication styles, etc. So he first addresses this issue. I'll let him explain. Here we go.
But at times it was tough, especially when I was in training camp. And I know that was always super frustrating for Michael. And full disclosure, I'm a really bad communicator. Some of it is I don't know. I'm just not a great communicator. I would imagine all my friends and family, if they would ask what's Anthony's biggest flaw, they'll say he's a terrible communicator. I just float through life and I do my thing, and I'm just trying to keep my head above water. And even from us working together on SiriusXM, like you have to sometimes people just have to find a way to help me do whatever I'm doing, because that's just how I am.
Absolutely. It's even when you want to do things, like things you're passionate about and things you enjoy, like there's too much going on sometimes that it's genuinely, I typed a message and it didn't send, or I just didn't get to it because I have 10 other things going on at the same exact time.
For sure. And so I say that because there has been times where Michael has gotten frustrated or upset where, I didn't communicate, oh shit, I'm in a different country, or I just go, and sometimes I can't look any further than my hand in front of my face. And then a lot of things get missed and I forget about them. I get distracted and I didn't do a good enough job at times of communicating. I never argued that. I always agreed that anytime you had a problem with it, you're right. I gotta be a better communicator. I gotta do better there. And I'll own that.
Okay, we're going to pause there. So I think that clip is super, super important, and you're going to see why in a second. He's basically acknowledging, hey, he had a communication issue. He's also acknowledging that Bisping at times got frustrated. And I think this is completely normal on both sides. He's acknowledging this issue, and I think it makes sense that Bisping could get aggravated by this. Obviously, you're trying to schedule, you're trying to keep all these moving parts working together. And if somebody's not responding to you, I know from personal experience, that can feel very frustrating. So he's mentioning this to say, hey, not that there was some necessarily, I'm saying there's friction, but in his mind, he's already starting to build a narrative that maybe Bisping is unhappy with him or not fully satisfied with what he's putting in and so on and so forth. When you start thinking like that, and I'm saying this from personal experience, when you start thinking that way, you can start feeling insecure. You can start feeling like maybe they don't want you on their show anymore, but they're not saying it because there's a friendship or whatever it may be. You can start to build this negative narrative in your mind. And I say this because I think now this gives me a much more thorough understanding of perhaps what had happened. So now we're going to go to the next part where Anthony explains in a little bit more detail of the last few weeks, I guess, after his fight when he finally decided to launch this podcast and so on and so forth. So check this out and then I'll explain a little more.
The assumption is that I've been ignoring him or that I've been not wanting to talk to him or that I've been ghosting him. Those are the the last two messages that I got. And that's fine. Like,
what he's talking about is messages, I believe he was texted on the day of the fight, good luck, something like that. And he also said, hey, fighters, we usually don't respond on the day of a fight. Yeah, of course. They have to be in that mindset. They're with their coaches, their team, their family. They're probably not even looking at their phone. And then I think he maybe got another message of condolence when his friend passed away. So anyways, those are the two messages. Let's keep going.
We get to the 7 or 8 week mark and I haven't heard from him. And again, this is partially my fault. What I should have done was reach out and say, hey, I see Paul's been on the show. What's the plan here? Is it him or do you want me back? That's what I should have done. Sure. But that's just not what I'll own that. That's what I should have done.
You kind of jumped to a conclusion and
I think
ran with it in a way.
And it wasn't even an angry thing. That's right. Things were like we had been several weeks and we have the same routine where, every Sunday or Monday before the like Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening, or Monday morning, Mike sends a message in the group text because there's a whole bunch of us in a different time zone. Hey, when are we going to be on the show? When's everyone's schedule? Like that is the same routine. And then it just stopped. Like it's his show. Like if you want me to be on your show, then like that, and that's how my brain worked. If you want me on the show, then he'll reach out. And he just didn't. So I had no animosity. There was no anger.
So I want to stop it right here. This clip is super important. I could already see some people saying, well, yeah, but you should have still called. Why didn't you reach out? Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? I can anticipate some people saying that. So I want to say right off the bat, I actually 100% get where he's coming from. He's saying that's his show. He's going to reach out to me if and when he's ready. Now, it sounds like Bisping maybe was waiting for Anthony to reach out to them, right? And you can see how the miscommunication can happen. But I think I'm theorizing, I could not be hitting the mark 100%. But I know if I was in Anthony Smith's position where I'm already feeling as though Michael Bisping might be frustrated with me because of my scheduling or things like that, and then now I'm waiting a couple weeks, I'm thinking in my mind, they're going to reach out to me. But now I see somebody has replaced me, and then I'm not getting any texts or emails about scheduling or what's going on at the next week and the week after. I'm going to build the narrative in my head 100% that they finally have moved on. He's happier with Felder. He doesn't want me back. It's going to be an awkward conversation to be like, hey, do you still want me on there? And then that's going to make him uncomfortable. That's going to make me uncomfortable. So I'm just going to be like, all right, I get it. I'm not mad because this is your show and you got to do what's best for it. I'm just going to gracefully step away and let you do your thing. And then I think him starting his own thing, he's mentioned later on or earlier in this segment that this was always something that he wanted to do. And not only that, this was something that Michael Bisping had been encouraging him to do. So he said, all right, well, now this is over. Let me start my own thing. I fully empathize with this. I can 100%. I know what he's going through. So anyways, I just wanted to say that This makes total sense. I can see that I think when I was theorizing about it, maybe brewing from something else, maybe these philosophical differences between how they look at fighting and maybe that creating some tension, I'll go on record and say 100%, I think I was absolutely wrong. This makes total sense to me. And it may not make sense to everybody else, but it makes sense to me because I think in that same way as Anthony does. Like, I always think that I did something wrong. I made a mistake. That's just where my mind goes. I'm a bit paranoid that way. And maybe that's what Anthony was dealing with. And so he felt like, hey, he's doing the thing that's best for both of them. Let me know what you guys think, if you agree or disagree. Now I'm going to give Anthony the final word here. He addresses this whole like big brothering idea and, hey, says, look, if Michael Bisping, he's a champ. If he wants to tell me anything, I got to take that advice. I always looked up to him. Let me let him explain this portion or all those assumptions in his own words.
I didn't graduate high school. I've been homeless at times. I have sacrificed everything in my life to be where I am today. There's nothing that like, I think the assumption is that Mike, like, I don't know, like big brothered me, like I wasn't good enough, or like, I don't feel like that. Like, I'm very, very proud of what I've done. And, I shot for the moon and I landed in the stars, and that's not a terrible place to be. So as far as I know, Michael and I are good. I don't like that maybe there was the illusion that I ghosted him. Like, he said he hadn't heard from me. He didn't say he reached out and I ignored him. And those are two very, very different things. The narrative that Mike was too tough on me and I couldn't take it. Listen, like, I know if you're just a regular, run of the mill person, that this might be hard to believe, but like, I'm super fucking proud of what I've done in my career and what I've done in my life.
So that's it. That is the answer to the question of what happened between Michael Bisping and Anthony Smith. To me, that makes total sense. I 100% get where both of them, I think, are coming from. And I just wanted to explain that last little tidbit as well, because some people may listen to what Anthony Smith said and say, well, yeah, you still should have done this, or you still should have done that, because maybe you don't think that same way. But I 100% get where he's coming from, because I think that way. I could totally see myself being in that situation, and it wouldn't be me not reaching out because I'm trying to show that I have some vitriol towards that person, or I'm trying to intentionally ghost them. It would literally be me not wanting to reach out because of my own inner insecurities. So anyways, that's it. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. I think this whole thing has now been resolved. I'm so glad that Anthony Smith came out and made this statement. I hope he's not upset with me, because I do feel like I tried to be extremely fair in my original video. And I stated multiple times that this is speculation and this is my theory. I'll fully say 100% I was wrong in terms of what I was speculating. This makes total sense. And I'll let Anthony end this video in his own words.
I love Michael Bisping. I love the BYM pod. Like and subscribe. Everything for them. I love Paul Felder. I love Brian. I love Harrington. And I love all the believers. Maybe you guys should get 2 podcasts now.